Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really fascinating critique that compares the entire structure of the modern web to, of all things, a creature from Chinese folklore. It all boils down to one simple question. Is our internet animated, or is it truly alive?
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote from the source paper, which is called Semantic Web as Jiangshi Web, a Taoist critique. Wow. A landscape of informational corpses. That's pretty intense image, right? It's painting this picture of a web that's still moving, but it's lost its soul. So what on earth does that actually mean?
To really get this powerful metaphor, we first have to meet the star of the show, the Jiangshi. So a Jiangshi is basically a reanimated body. In the folklore, and drawing on Taoist ideas, it's got this energy, this qi, that allows it to move around. But, and this is the key part, it's missing a spirit, or shén. That's the spark of awareness, the ability to be flexible. And without it, its movements are just super rigid, totally unthinking, and it can only hop along these fixed paths. Okay, so now that we know what a Jiangshi is, let's rewind a bit. Let's look at the problem that this whole metaphor is trying to explain. And believe it or not, the story really starts with the early internet. The original World Wide Web, it was this amazing, creative mess. It was vibrant and full of all these links and data that only we humans could really make sense of. It felt alive, for sure, but it was also super chaotic, which made it almost impossible for computers to understand what was going on. So to try and fix this chaos, this grand vision was proposed for something called the Semantic Web. The whole goal was to bring order to the chaos, to create a web where every piece of information was so perfectly organized and defined that computers could finally understand how everything related to everything else. Now, this plan for a super orderly web was built on a few key pillars. You can see them on the slide here. First, you give a unique ID, kind of like a web address, to everything. Not just websites, but, concepts, people, places. Second, you describe how all this data is related using these simple subject, predicate, object sentences. And finally, you set up these formal, logical rules for those relationships using something called ontologies. The whole idea was to build a perfect, logical foundation. So, here's the huge, critical point the paper makes. In this big quest to make the web perfectly logical so machines could read it, what did we lose? What was the real price for all of that perfect order? And this, right here, is where that central metaphor just clicks into place. This whole quest for perfect order, well, it gives birth to the Jiangshi web. Now, this is what's so cool. Check out how perfectly the metaphor maps out. Take a look. The Jiangshi's stiff joints? That's like the web's rigid rules and links. They're fixed, and they don't bend easily. Its predictable little hops along a set path? That's just like a computer query, following a predefined logical path. The web has plenty of energy, that qi, with data flowing all the time. But the thing it's missing is the spirit, the shén, that ability to be flexible and creative in how it interprets things. Yeah, the paper argues the semantic web has tons of qi. Data's always moving, queries are running, info is circulating. The web is definitely animated, but it's lost its shén, that capacity for real curiosity, for doubt, for looking at the same thing and seeing it in a totally new way. And this stiffness, it comes from this insistence on making one single, unchanging set of rules that applies to everything, everywhere, all the time. So instead of having these flexible connections that can mean different things in different situations, the joints of the web got locked in place. Now, this whole critique of a stiff, undead web isn't just some dusty observation from the past. Oh no. It brings us right into the here and now, and it raises a really critical question about the rise of artificial intelligence. So you gotta ask, right? If our most powerful, most sophisticated AI models are learning from this stiff informational skeleton, what does that mean for how they think, for their creativity? Are they learning to be truly intelligent, or are they just learning to be something else entirely? The real danger here is that we end up creating AI that looks like it has a spirit, that seems like it has shén, it appears incredibly intelligent, but what's really happening is that it's just getting very, very good at hopping along the same rigid paths we already laid out for it in the data. We're at risk of mistaking really clever pattern matching for genuine insight. Okay, so if the web has become too stiff, too much like a Jiangshi, is there a way out of this? How do we make it more flexible, more alive again? The paper suggests what it calls a Tao-consistent approach. Basically, building a web that has soft joints that can actually adapt. This would mean using rules that can bend, allowing different communities to have their own local meanings for things, and making it super easy to change our minds about how stuff gets classified.
So here's the crucial shift in thinking. We need to stop trying to create one single, final, correct description of everything. The goal totally changes. Instead, we should be focused on building tools that help us skillfully navigate a world that is always in this messy, wonderful state of change. It's not about having a perfect map. It's about getting better at navigating.
And all of this leaves us with this one, final, provocative question about the future we're all building online. Are we building a web that can hop but has forgotten how to dance? Have we gotten so focused on predictable, efficient movement that we've squeezed out all the room for spontaneous, creative, and truly intelligent life? It's a question that is definitely worth thinking about.